Okay. All right. So today we have the pleasure of Ernie back again with us. He will be talking about Home Again, the journey of return. And if you're not familiar with Ernie, I'd like to share your bio. I think a lot of us are with his wonderful work. But Ernie Taminga holds a PhD in cross-cultural religious studies from UC Santa Barbara. He is a spiritual director and grandpa with over 50 years of experience in accompanying people in spiritual exploration via classes, workshops, and retreats. For 20 years, he has been a member of the board and the teaching faculty of Still Point, the Center for Christian Spirituality. He calls himself a planet empath, deeply in tune with the grief and amazement and the promise of being awake and awakened on an awakening planet. So with that in mind, Ernie, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Good morning, all. I'd like to acknowledge my friend David W., who you might see on your screen. He's in Germany, so we're an international meeting today. Hi, David. Most of the visual this morning is going to be a PowerPoint set. You'll see me only occasionally, but most of it I've spent quite a bit of time putting together a PowerPoint set, so I'm eager to share that. With the welcome home motif, I would love to be bringing something full of bright hope. I'm afraid I couldn't quite manage that, but I'm going to offer all the hope that I can, and at the very least, a sense of being home here on our planet, in our galaxy, in our universe, and hopefully that will be useful. I need to move my screen full of you lovely folk off to my other monitor so I can see my PowerPoint stuff. And I will begin screen sharing. You are always complete, and you're never finished. You means you personally. You means all of you, all of us. I begin, as I often do, by paying respect to my teacher, Ramon Panikar, with whom I studied for 5 years at UC Santa Barbara toward my doctorate in cross-cultural religious studies. Ramon died in 2010, and I say I'm still learning from him. This is one of the teachings that he insisted upon most often. We are, all of us, the legitimate heirs of the sum total of human wisdom. We are, all of us, the heirs of the sum total of human wisdom. We are not separate. We are not alone. Here's a place you might recognize, I should say. I don't mean to spoil the ending of the show, but here's what I meant when I used the phrase homecoming in the introduction. In the Christian New Testament, in the last days, your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. One of our daughters, climate change prophet Greta Thunberg, has been telling us over and over again, this is our house, this is our home rather, and our house is on fire. And she adds, I want you to panic. I want you to act. I will not be focusing on panic this morning, but I do keep in mind that he has said this to world leaders a number of times. Our sons and our daughters are prophesying. Does that mean that we're in the last days, as the scripture passage says? We are in a time of apocalypse. We are in the end game of the current phase of planetary evolution. But it's worth repeating over and over again that the Greek word apocalypse or apocalypsis does not mean catastrophe. It means the revealing of something important that had been deeply hidden. What's being revealed in the apocalypse of our time is that our earth, our home, is sacred, and that the human adventure has only just begun. We can end the adventure if we fail to awaken from our dream of domination, our illusions of separateness, our delusion that we are the crown of creation, our hallucination that the earth and all her creatures are here for us to exploit rather than the family that we belong to. Today, millions of people seem to be awakening from these dreams and illusions. But we cherished our illusions, and letting them go can result in a deep sense of loss and grief. This is good, because in this context, grief is a stage of awakening. In this context, grief is a sign of falling in love or being in love. Chris Jordan put it this way: grief is a felt experience of love for something we are losing or have lost. Thich Nhat Hanh pointed out, the earth is not just the environment, the earth is us. Everything depends on whether we have this insight or not. If we do have this insight, then a result can be, as Adrienne Marie Brown says, there is such urgency in the multitude of crises we face, it can make it hard to remember that in fact, it is urgency thinking, urgent, constant, unsustainable growth that got us to this point, and that our potential success lies in doing deep, slow, intentional work. Very pithy way of saying the same thing comes from another one of my favorite teachers, Bayo Komalafe. Quoting a proverb from his own Yoruba people, he says, "The times are urgent. We must slow down." And we'll extend that for a moment. A meditation and a poem inviting us to slow down even more together. So mindfulness meditation first for a couple of minutes. Be aware again of your breathing, our breathing. We're not in each other's physical space at the moment, but we are breathing together. We're in the same place, moment, the same space-time. The fact of being together as a we is a miracle in itself. So be aware of your breathing. And as you are aware of that, be especially aware that the air we breathe is a gift from the plants all around us. Plants eat light, as someone said. They do photosynthesis, and they breathe out oxygen, which is their gift, one of their gifts to us. We breathe in their gift of oxygen. We use it to help fuel our own bodies. And we breathe out, in return, our gift back to the plants, which is carbon dioxide. As a species, we're breathing out too much of that these days, but what comes out of our individual breaths is carbon dioxide. And the plants appreciate that. They breathe it, they reprocess it, they give it back. They give back to us in the form of more oxygen for us to keep breathing. We are definitely physically, morally, globally members of the same family. Be aware also, as we finish this brief meditation, of how your skin registers the temperature around you. Their skin is so amazing. It's not a boundary between us and the rest of the planet. It's our area of communication with the planet. We can sense the slightest breeze. We can sense changes in temperature. We can sense so many things. Here's a poem. You want to say a prayer for everything that's died, but it's dangerous to care, so much easier to hide. You want to touch, to bless everything that's dying, but it's so hard to confess that your heart and soul are crying. Hold me close, like I'm your child, and I'll hold you close to me. Let our souls enjoin, run wild. Let our raging love fly free. Take a vow to stop pretending and descend into your pain. Cry out loud for all that's ending and cherish what remains. Cherish what's still present, what still can stir and dream with a love that's incandescent and not afraid to scream. Hold every being that's gone. Embrace them from within with a love that bears them on, and thanks for having been. Unafraid of crying and unafraid to sing. Let yourself be overtaken by the love of everything. Unafraid to stumble and unafraid to fall. Burst wide open with the love of it all. All that still waits, unknown, everything we cannot own, everything we can't explain, cherish what remains. Oh, cherish what remains. So here we all are together for a moment. How did we get here? I'm a longtime fan of David Byrne, who used to be the lead singer of Talking Heads. One of their songs called Once in a Lifetime had this line in it that a lot of people know. You may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? That's the way he pronounced it. In the invitation to this meeting, we invited you to recall your earliest memory to get some sense of the journey you've been on. You'll have a chance to share those memories a little bit if you want to. For right now, let's take a brief but deep dive into the journey we've all been on, the emergence of the universe. Imagine that the whole 13.5 billion year story of the universe were represented as a single year. Carl Sagan is the one who first introduced this suggestion, a way of envisioning time. So 13.5 billion years represented as one single cosmic year. Sagan said, we humans appear on the cosmic calendar so recently that our recorded history occupies only the last few seconds of the last minute of December 31st. So here's a few milestones in the single cosmic year that we're looking at. The very first day of the year, New Year's Day, January 1, the original yes. A lot of people call that the Big Bang. I prefer the original yes. A few cosmic months go by on the calendar, and then on May 1 of the cosmic year, the Milky Way galaxy is born. The cosmic calendar summer goes by, a few months, and September 9, our solar system is formed. Later that same month, the origin of life on Earth. Getting close to the end of the year, December 24, the first dinosaurs make their appearance. And during the last hour of the last day of the cosmic year, we appear for the first time, the first humans. Here's a close-up of the last 60 seconds of the cosmic year. You know it at the very right of the timeline. Columbus arrives in America on this calendar at 1 second until midnight. Everything else in history has happened during that 1 second, the last 1 second so far of our cosmic year. So if we represent the cosmic year this way in color, where does your story begin? Is your story contained in that tiny dot at the bottom right of the calendar, the last few seconds of the cosmic year? I would say the answer to that question is no, that's not where it begins. This is your story. The whole thing. Your story continues today, still giving birth to the universe, still giving birth to our home, still giving birth to you. So our solar system and our home planet emerged in early September of this one cosmic year. And the time between then and now, about 3 months on the cosmic calendar, has been about 4.5 billion years, the emergence and evolution of our planet. As our planet formed, there was the hot molten barosphere, which cooled over time, forming the lithosphere, which is the rocky skin around the Earth. And over quite a bit more time, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, and the biosphere, the sphere of life around the planet, took form. And emerging since the beginning of reflective consciousness, which is to say, since the emergence of humans, is what Teilhard de Chardin calls the noosphere, the sphere of reflective thought around the world. Teilhard affirms that this new sphere, NEW sphere, the noosphere, is an organic sphere of our planet, just as much as the other spheres that preceded it. From the atom to the cell, from the cell to reflective thought, it is one single ongoing process of planetary evolution. In terms of cosmic time, the specifically human chapter of the story is really just beginning. But does the story end here? Is there a future? Today, we often feel engulfed by a cold sense of loneliness and isolation. Even while we're surrounded by billions of our fellow creatures and trillions, billions of our fellow humans, that is, and trillions of fellow creatures. We're surrounded by each other in numbers that overwhelm our understanding. Isolation all too easily festers into isolationism and even repulsion. We push each other away. We have it in our power to end the story, at least our story, here. We can do this. We can end our story, and we must not. We are at an evolutionary threshold. The power of reflective thought has brought us face to face with one another all around the planet. We are in the endgame of the current phase of planetary evolution. We are face to face with one another, but we don't see each other. We cannot think our way into the future. Our minds alone cannot connect us. But millions of us are feeling the stirrings of a kind of evolutionary mutation where love begins to become conscious of itself. We have it in our power to close out our part of the story or to awaken. We could call that kind of awakening to God, if we want to use that language. We could call it God awakening in us. Our current sense of isolation is an extreme form of what Teilhard de Chardin called the sickness of the dead end, not knowing whether we have a future. Because it includes such a sense of grief and loss, we could call this mourning sickness. Activist Lynn Twist, one of the co-founders of the Pachamama Alliance, you may or may not have heard of, Lynn Twist suggests that the sickness we all feel in today's world can be framed as a kind of mourning sickness with no U. I haven't experienced this personally, mourning sickness, because I'm not a woman. But I'm told that when you become pregnant, you may well feel quite sick. And you might worry about that. But once you know that the feeling of sickness is because of pregnancy, that changes everything. Because now the discomfort means that new life is coming. New life is coming. We're already face to face with each other all around the planet. We need to become truly aware of one another. It's a nice coincidence. Somebody posted on Facebook this posting last week, which really goes with our theme for the day. Clean your spaces, your house, your room, your car, your mind, your heart. New things are coming. Make sure you're welcoming them properly. The photo there is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a Jesuit priest as well as a professionally trained paleontologist. One of his most famous quotes is, "The day will come when, after harnessing the winds, the tides, gravitation, we shall harness for God the energies of love." And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire. Unafraid to stumble, unafraid to fall, burst wide open with the love of it all. Love is discovering fire for the second time. Really discovering love would be an evolutionary breakthrough, at least as powerful as the first time humans discovered fire. We've been here for 13.5 billion years in this universe, about 4.5 billion years on this earth. And we are in this meeting here right now together. We cannot think the future into being, but we can do our best to love it into being. We can love a world for our grandchildren to live in. Even if right now we can't, with our minds, imagine their world, we can place ourselves right here in our own present time and sing to our grandchildren a world where they may thrive. Kimberly is my daughter. Footprints in the sand. I hope we come into your mind, maybe once or twice a day. I hope you hold the memory for a while. And maybe you'll recall little things we used to say. And I'm hoping that the memory makes you smile. I hope your heart is full of peace, because I know it's full of grace. So I tell you, don't let anyone pretend that your loving heart is not a blessed, sacred space, or that love like this can ever have an end. May our footprints in the sand help you find a place to stand. May you come to know the love that we have known. May all we've loved so much hold the memory of our touch, and may you hear us calling, welcome home. This photo is Earthrise, and so are you.